Welcome to the Multiorgasmic Mama podcast, where sexual taboos are broken. I'm Tilly Storm, holistic sex coach and Jade Egg and tantric sex teacher. I work with luxury lovers, teaching them the art of better, sacred sex by helping them remove all their blocks to pleasure, turn on confidence and connection, so they can step into their fullest potential and power as humans and alchemists in the 3D. If you'd like to learn how to release shame and guilt destroying your sex life so you can feel fully sexually liberated and free, you can access my How to Release Shame and Guilt training at www.tillystorm.com/shame. This episode is brought to you by the Sensually Embodied Woman Collective. If you're ready to remove all your blocks to pleasure, turn on and feeling confident and sexy in your body through my paid programs and offerings, then head to www.tillystorm.com today. Welcome back, my loves. It's Tilly Storm here, and today we're going to be talking about how the Jade Egg helps you become multi-orgasmic. Multiple orgasms. What does that even mean? For those of you that have been following me a while, or you've listened to the podcast or followed me on Instagram, you know that I often talk about the Jade Egg practice. And this is something that is paramount to all of the work that I do with women, because the Jade Egg practice personally had such a profound effect on how I approached my sexuality and how I became multi-orgasmic and went from only being able to orgasm in one way and it being pretty weak to having multiple orgasms and all the different types of orgasms. Now, multi-orgasmic, what does that even mean? To me, it means that you experience waves of pleasure that come and go, and there's a height to each of them. Now, what most of us know about sexuality, at least scientific-wise, is that we map women's sexuality on a blueprint that has been studied by men. Women's sexuality is really difficult to study scientifically, and because of our menstrual cycles, basically. And because we have such different responses at different times of the month during our cycle, it makes things unreliable, right? Because something that worked one day might not work the next, or you might feel really desirous while you're ovulating or when you're menstruating and then not in the times in between. It could be so many variables that really make it difficult to study women's sexuality. So everything we know about the orgasmic experience from science has been mapped by a male model. And this is actually very limiting to women's experiences of pleasure and orgasm. And what we know is that, an orgasm is basically a build up until a peak, and then there's fireworks, and then it's over. And that is not conducive to a lot of women's experiences of what being orgasmic even means. For me in particular, I know that because I have access to having different types of orgasms, not just clitoral orgasms, I have access to G-spot, A-spot, cervical, breast, all sorts of different types of orgasms, that because they aren't the same as this model of build up, fireworks and done, it's hard to define what even being multi-orgasmic even means. But for me, it means that there's a buildup of pleasure to a certain peak, and then it might come down, and then there's another buildup of pleasure to a peak, and it might come down. But every time you reach that peak, it could be a different sensation, a different feeling, different energy of movement, a different movement of my body. And, when you open up your energy body and you're really aware of your sexual energy and you learn to consciously move sexual energy through your body through some of the techniques I teach in the Jade Egg practice, then it's like orgasm it's so much more than just a clitoral firework experience. I think this is so sad that most women think that that's all that is available to them. And it's really disturbing that things like Cosmo and different, mainstream news media will often, every now and then, they'll come out with some outrageous article being like, oh, G-spot orgasms don't even exist and blah, 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 blah. And I've had women that are so defensive and so, maybe it just triggers them because they don't experience multiple orgasms or different types of orgasms, that they get defensive and triggered when you tell them that they can have cervical or G-spot or A-spot orgasms or any of the other types. And this is sad because we don't even know what's possible for our bodies to experience. And part of my mission and what I'm here to do is to help you to experience that pleasure is infinite, that it's not just something you experience in the bedroom, but it's something that you can experience in your entire life, in your day-to-day living experiences, that your life doesn't have to be based on stories and ideals that we got taught from our parents, that you can up-level your life, not just in the bedroom, but in general, to experience more pleasure on the regular in your day-to-day existence. And this is what, a lot of the tantric teachings that I've been through and have learned and teach have made me realize that I live very different than most mothers of 10 and 13-year-old boys. By the time you're listening to this podcast, we'll be in Mexico having some amazing journey where we don't really know where it's going to take us, just exploring the jungle and having fun out by the beach and being in the cenotes and all that. And, I don't know what's next. My kids are homeschooled now and I don't know what we're going to do after, but I know that we will be gone for quite a while, quite a few months. And, it's just about me being able to claim this is what brings me joy. This is where I'm called to be. And this is what I'm called to be connecting with nature more right now. I am called to be following my own joy and bliss right now more than ever before. And I don't know what's next. And living in that question and living in that uncertainty, yeah, there's a little fear around it, but there's also a sense of excitement and heightened states of, I wonder, heightened states of bliss and just being like, wow, what might be possible? How much better can this get? How much better can my life even be? I mean, it's already pretty epic. I work from home. I run a multiple six-figure business. My kids, they have a private teacher and we homeschool. We get to travel the world doing whatever I want, wherever I want to do it, basically. Teaching women how to have better sex and relationships. It's freaking epic. But how much better can it get? When you're living in that question, that is where you have marked the point of I am no longer living in survival mode to I am thriving. And when you make that transition from learning how to just survive and adulting and all of that stuff. It took me forever to get there, right? But when I transitioned from that a couple of years ago, when I started thriving, it's like, oh, wow, how much better can this get? How much more epic and amazing and pleasurable and joyful can life be? And just trusting that it's okay to live in uncertainty, that you're always supported. And I think when we go into that thriving mindset, that's when living a multi-orgasmic life, becoming available for more pleasure, increasing our capacity to experience more pleasure, it actually starts to land and we start to experience it. And, that's why teaching you and educating people about what's even possible is so important to me, because if we don't have the blueprint, then we can't create it. If you don't even know what's possible, how could you ever even get there? And this is what I want to teach and to scream from the freaking rooftops about our sexuality, is that there is so much more available. How much better can your sex life get? How much better can it be? And that is where becoming a multi-orgasmic woman comes in. And it's not just sexually. It's every part of your life. How much better can your work be? How much better can your relationship with your kids be? How much better can anything and everything in your life be? It can be so much better. And when you start to expand your mind into that possibility, that's when things start to line up and to fall into place, when you're asking the right question. Okay, now let's talk about the Jade Egg in particular and how this helps to get you more living in that question of how much better can it get, right? Maybe you already experience orgasms. Maybe you already experience multiple orgasms. That doesn't mean that this practice won't help you up level. It's all about your next level. The Jade Egg practice, it is like yoga for your vagina. It is teaching you how to become mindful and conscious of your sexuality, to make a mind-body connection to a part of our bodies that we're completely disconnected from most of the time. Most women are completely disconnected from their pussies. They're completely disconnected because of trauma and negative conditioning that they have picked up along the way growing up. And when you do a conscious self-pleasure practice, or you build in a sexual training practice into your life, this helps you to open up the channels and the capacity to experience more pleasure in your body and your life. I teach about this all of the time, and I can't, there's so many people that just don't understand why you need a sexual training practice or a sexual self-care practice when you're in a relationship. And I'm like, oh my God, if you think that you don't need one, then we have to start there, because it is so important to learn what your body wants and needs and how to ask for it. Because if you don't know what you want and need sexually, you can go look at all of the tips and tricks online, but I think there's 32 trillion cells in your body or something ridiculous like that. There are no two bodies that will respond in the same way to a particular touch or stroke or whatever. So you can go look at all of the tips and the tricks on the internet, and that does not guarantee any way, shape, or form that any of those are going to work for you. That's why I fucking hate that shit. That's why I hate the tips and tricks around like, oh, do it this way. Oh, do it that way. Okay, well, that's great that works for that woman, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. The Jade Egg practice helps you to learn to drop the goal and to approach your body and sexuality from that feminine way, and a question and a curiosity and an awareness of like, I'm curious. I wonder, what might it be like if I, and all of that. Because when you're in that space, that's the energy of creation. Now, I know you're probably wondering, okay, well, that's great till you get it, but how does it actually work? Okay, I will tell you. The Jade Egg works because it massages different reflexology points in your vagina at different depths of your vagina. There's no science to prove that reflexology even works, but we know that, there's lots of different traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic practices that utilize reflexology points and that really do work. But there really isn't any science to prove it that way. Now, if you've listened to me on this podcast before, you know that I'm not a fan of the Western medical system at all, and how it tries to disregard and downgrade and berate anything that's actually holistic and good for you, because this country, the United States, is run by big pharma companies. So I don't trust anything they ever say. That's why I had an unassisted free birth when I was 23 years old, because I actually went to school to become a doctor, an OBGYN, and I saw many, many C-sections. I did rotations with an anesthesiologist, and I saw what happened in these hospitals, and I saw these women just like totally knocked out after childbirth, and how disconnected they were, and they looked fucking miserable. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is what we do when we try and disregard women's connection to their own body and say that they don't know what's best for them. And this is the same thing those stupid fucking tips and tricks articles do to you. They're taking your power and they're saying, no, we know how your body works. Come listen to these tips and tricks and try it out. It's not how it works. Your body is unique. It's different. So back to my point about how the Jade Egg actually works. It works by activating different reflexology points in your vagina. It teaches you to relax your vaginal muscles. If your vagina is tight and tense, that is not a good thing. Okay. Everyone's like, oh, I want a tight vagina. No, you don't. You want it relaxed, but tone and strong, because a tight one that it doesn't get blood flow. And if you're cutting off blood flow, then you won't be able to experience the orgasms that you want to experience, or they won't be nearly as strong as they could be if you could learn to relax your vagina. Now, some people have too relaxed vaginas and they have no tone and strength in them, and then they need to strengthen the vaginal muscles. There are two approaches here, and it really depends on the woman. Either your vagina is not strong enough and it's floppy and it's starting to atrophy, which there are a lot of women that this is the case, and a lot if you are postpartum or if you've ever experienced prolapse or anything like that, it's a lot because you don't have a tone and strong vagina and it's too relaxed, and you need to strengthen it, because we know that the strength of your vagina and how toned it is directly correlated to the strength and the length of your orgasmic experience. And the other type of woman is where there's so much tension, especially around the inner lips and right at the entrance of the vagina, but sometimes inside as well, where it's so tight that you can't relax it enough for the blood flow to create a great orgasmic experience. And when you learn the Jade Egg practice, there's different practices to help you to learn how to relax it completely, and practices to help you to strengthen it if that is what you're in need of. So when you're doing Jade Egg practices, you always want to do just as much strengthening as relaxing, if not more relaxing than strengthening. And the other way that the Jade Egg actually works is because you can use double biofeedback with your fingers inside to know what you're actually squeezing and releasing, to help you either relax or to strengthen, and to be able to get dexterous, right? I don't think I know how to say that word quite correctly, but you want to be able to increase the dexterity of your vaginal muscles, because there are 16 different muscle groups in your vagina. And if you can't distinguish between when you're squeezing the left side from the right side, the anterior, the posterior, up towards your cervix, around the middle, or just all the way down to the pelvic floor, and all of these different things in between, then this is because you don't have dexterity in your vagina. So just like you would in a yoga class, you do different asanas or yoga poses to be able to isolate and tone different muscle groups. Well, this is exactly what you're doing with the Jade Egg. You're seeing and you're feeling, you're perceiving with that double biofeedback with your fingers inside, if that supports you and helps you to know what is it that I'm squeezing and what is it that I'm releasing and relaxing. And this teaches you to either relax the vagina and to release all of the tension and the stress that's in there, or to strengthen it. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, the other way that the Jade Egg actually helps you to release or to strengthen is that it helps you build a connection with this part of your body in the first place. Like I said earlier, most of us are extremely disconnected from this part of our body, and if we don't have a mind-body connection to this part of us, then how are we going to consciously relax it or strengthen it or know what's even going on if we aren't aware of it? It brings awareness to our vagina, our pussy, our pelvic floor, and it helps us to then be able to track pleasure, to find the source of pleasure inside, the little spark of pleasure. Usually it's like just a little spark, right? And a spark of turn on, a spark of sexual energy getting ignited. And then when you can connect with that through your conscious awareness, you can take that spark and you can learn to move it through your body consciously to be able to have energy or full body orgasms. And you also become sensitized, okay? For those of you that experience vibrator addiction or only being able to orgasm in one way, this can be a really big issue for you if you're not sensitized down there because you've been doing rigorous masturbation patterns or using a vibrator. Learning how to become sensitive by just letting your body have time to find a new way to orgasm. Eventually it will. This is why a couple of weeks ago or podcast episodes ago, I talked about how to do like a 30-day orgasm detox, because if you want to be able to orgasm in a new way, it is going to take some time and it can be very frustrating, but it does work. And doing the Jade Egg will help you to become sensitized even more quickly to experience different types of orgasms, because eventually you'll be doing the practices for so long, it starts to ignite that energy, and the energy becomes just like, oh my God, it becomes overwhelming. And then it opens up a new path to orgasm. Okay, now let's talk about some of the benefits of the Jade Egg practice. Well, I'm sure that you can understand by now that it helps you to become multiorgasmic, okay? And it also helps to experience a greater sense of self-love around your body. Many women have body image issues. Many women don't like their breast or their belly or something in their body that they just judge heavily. They hate it. They don't like to touch it. If you're anything like me, like I never wanted to have sex with my shirt off or the lights on because I didn't like my body that much. That's how bad it was. And when you learn and do the Jade Egg practice, you're breaking through barriers. You're pushing past an edge of what feels comfortable to do something that's fun comfortable. And I say fun comfortable because it does get to be fun and easy and pleasurable and joyful, and it doesn't have to fucking suck. I think a lot of people don't do this work because they don't do sexual healing, or they don't even want to face it because they think it has to be some terrible, excruciating, god-awful thing. And that's totally not true. You heal pleasure with pleasure. You heal a lack of pleasure with pleasure. By connecting with pleasure, you heal your blocks to pleasure. Oh my goodness, what a concept, right? So it doesn't have to suck. You can heal all of your sexual blocks with pleasure and in a way that's fun, and yet it will push you to an edge, and you're going to get fun comfortable, but it will be fun and it doesn't have to suck. Now, another benefit of the Jade Egg is that if you experience recurring female health issues such as yeast infections or UTIs, again, there is no science. I do not make claims around this at all, but we do know from women's experiences of doing Jade Egg practices that indeed can heal recurring issues like this. And these issues happen because of stuck and stagnant energy in the bladder and other female health organs like the uterus, the ovaries, the cervix, all of these things. And often this is why recurring yeast infections or UTIs on an energetic level will continue to happen. Now, of course, always do what you need to do medically, physically, and do what your doctor suggests you to do. But on an energetic level, if this keeps happening, then it's obviously something much deeper, and it probably is psychosomatic, psycho-emotional, one of those things. And doing a Jade Egg practice when you're not having an active infection can be very valuable to help you to break the cycle of that. Again, no claims, but we know that women have overcome these issues by doing this sort of practice. Experiencing pain during sex. This is another reason that you might want to try the Jade Egg practice, because it will help you to release stored trauma and negative conditioning that are the cause of your pains in the first place. I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago as well on healing your sexuality and how you need to figure out and rule out any physical issues first. And if it's not a physical issue, then you know it's an energetic or psychosomatic, right? And that means that doing a practice like this is probably what you need in order to heal what's going on, because it is the deeper stuff that you probably don't want to face or that you're scared to face because you think it's going to suck. But I'm telling you, it doesn't have to suck. So how exactly does it help you heal these things? Because it makes all of this crap that is unintegrated in your sexuality, all the shit, it makes it come up to the surface. And again, I'm not really into the crystal aspect of jade or any other stone at all. And I don't think you need to be just like me either for it to work. I know that you don't need to be into that aspect of it, but there is a reason that you use jade or obsidian stone. And the reason is because 100% nephrite, jade, and obsidian, that these stones are a very yang masculine energy. And your vagina is very feminine and yin. And there's a lot of density in the yin feminine aspect. And when you use a yang stone, it balances the yin space. And you always want to bring balance. So energetically speaking, it pushes up anything that's stuck and stagnant in the vagina, and it brings it to the surface to be healed and integrated through the breath, sound, and movement. You don't need to understand what's going on. You don't need to logically process the story. We know from trauma healing science that you don't need to know and have a cortical thinking, logical understanding of what happened to you in order to heal what happened to you. All you need is to feel it to heal it. And this is what I'm saying that the Jade Egg practice helps you do. It helps you to feel something in your body because you're activating so much sensation by becoming sensitized. And that pushes all of anything in the way of your pleasure to the surface so you can release it through breath, sound, movement. And that's how it works. So there's quite a few benefits that I just talked about. If you are interested in learning how to start the Jade Egg practice so that you too can have multiple orgasms in all sorts of different ways, then I suggest you go download my How to Start a Jade Egg Practice e-guide at www.tillystorm.com. Head to the free stuff tab and you will find that e-guide there. Thank you so much for joining me. Love you all so much. And for those of you that want to take this work even further, in that e-guide, I do give you 6 different practices, 3 warm-up practices and 3 actual Jade Egg practices to get started. But that's not enough really to actually have a transformational experience with the Jade Egg. If you are ready for a transformational experience using the Jade Egg and to go through a whole proven system to help you break through all of your blocks to pleasure, turn on, confidence, and connection, the Essentially Embodied Woman program is what you want to do. That's how you'll want to work with me and my team. And that is a place to start to heal and integrate your sexuality and to help you get where you want to go. It's not the end all be all. It's not going to make you a freaking tantric master, but it will help you to break through those blocks so you can get to your next level, which is my Tantra for Lovers program, relationship coaching. Because how I work is that I work with the individual first to heal and integrate their own blocks to pleasure, confidence, turn on, connection. And then I work with a couple together after at least one of them has already done that level of work. I don't like working with couples to start because they're never ready for this level of work that I do with couples to start. There are tons of relationship coaches that do that. I am not that person. I am all about you self-empowering, all about helping you to integrate your own shit before you go and try and fix everything in your relationship. Because most of the time, you just need to go on that journey yourself, and that's for you to do. That's not for your partner to do. It's for you. And once you do that, it shifts the relationship without you even having to try to do anything. And sometimes along the way, there are different communication and connection practices I give to do with your partner because your relationship is shifting at such a rapid level because of the inner work that you are doing. But eventually, sometimes there is a need to bring in the partner to help integrate what's happening with the individual into the relationship itself. And then once you have worked with me for yourself and either my Essentially Embodied Woman group coaching program for women, or if you're a man listening to this, my men's sexual mastery program, then you can come together as a couple to learn Tantra for Lovers or to do relationship coaching. All right, my loves, thank you all so much for joining me, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.